but can we have a 3D trophy?
Yeah, it did look like it had been made at primary school, didn't it? And wrapped in tinfoil out of like a bit of cardboard cutout. Mark Stevo72 said it was a deserved win for Wigan. They did the tough stuff and took their chances, but it also reminded Super League fans how poor our officials are over here. I would respectfully disagree with that sentiment. Based in this individual performance.
He made a couple of mistakes, but...
Do we want robots?
It was like the Gallon one where he offloaded it off the floor, but he'd offloaded it before his arm had touched the floor, but it was like an inch in it, and you sort of think, come on.
Pace.
Yeah.
Who misses that? Yeah. You know, it's yeah. Anyway.
There were a few mistakes. Wigan got the 50-50s for sure. On balance, but that's what I was calling for.
Yes, it was what you were calling for. Your impartiality fell out of the window, didn't it?
Of course it did.
What did Colin have to say?
Colin Render said, "Congrats to Wigan, they did Super League proud. Maybe we aren't too far behind the NRL after all. Was impressed that SLP got on Sky and were all over the internet because of Tom's costume."
I do it for the lols, mate. I do it for you guys. Pete Jacko 87. Pete Jackson gets in touch and says, "I take back what I said about the NRL being ahead of Super League. What an amazing game by our boys. I think we had them on the back foot from the start, and it was clear that we wanted it more. We kept up the pressure on them, and the hard work paid off. There was a few mistakes that we shouldn't have made, and a lot of dirty play from the Sharks, but overall a very entertaining match. And after all, we love a bit of Biff Bateman for man of the match."
Frogmore got in touch. He said, "Average completion rate, poor our account, lacking attacking the opposition 20 metres. No, I'm not talking about my NRL Dragons. The Sharks have always tried to be like us."
Yeah, well, we certainly succeeded yesterday.
"This was my two rival teams in either comp, so I'm happy the Sharks lost, but I'm hesitant to hand out Wigan praise. Burgess had a great one. The halves controlled the game well. Yep, that's all I can say. I feel sick now."
There you go. Paul Ludo Lewis says another great performance from the Super League teams. A few ref calls that could have gone the other way, but this is what happens when you have the same sport being played under two different sets of rules over its top two leagues. It's a joke. Williams, Burgess, Escarate and Bateman all brilliant individually, but overall it was a great Wigan team performance. Well done the Pies.
Yeah, but there was the one that got the most chat about whether it was the same or not was the tackle in the air one where the NRL, where Gallen said that wouldn't be a penalty in the NRL when Luke Lewis, I think it might have been, or Pryor, ran into Joe Burgess when he was taking the high kick, and he ran into him. He didn't actually wrap him up. He just made sure he put his rather large human chest into him in the air. Yeah. And Hicks said, "Well, I felt it was an attempt to tackle him."
It was an attempt to physically impede him while he was gathering the ball. So
if Joe Burgess, I think it was Joe Burgess, but if the catcher would have, gone over the top of him and broke his neck and stuff, then what we'll be saying then? Exactly. We'll be saying, "Why players shouldn't be touching players when they're in the air." So they need to chill out.
I agree, as do you. Wow. I can see you won, Mark. Just remember that.
I love it. It's amazing. Yes. We're world champs. Okay. BP Loftus said, "Didn't see the game, but had it on the radio in the car as I was driving. 5 Live Sports Extra did a great job of conveying the atmosphere and what sounded like an amazing performance by Wigan, thanks to great calling by Dave Woods, who Sky should get to call, and the most positive man in English Rugby League, John Keir." Oh, Uncle Two Skulls doing it proud.
He does make us proud.
Got to watch it later. But you wanted to a review just now. Cheers, lads. Chin up, Tom. And it can still be your year. Well, we don't. People get a bit of time to do the reviews. They didn't go. Normally about 10 o'clock on a Sunday the reviews close. Yeah. This week they actually didn't close till about 10 a.m. on today.
Because you had the day off, didn't you? You lucky devil. Dave Pye. Yet more Super League pod royalty. It's just a who's who today, isn't it? Of
one of our more handsome.
Absolutely, another one of your man crushes, Mark. This is becoming a theme over the last couple of weeks, isn't it? The homoeroticism of Mark Illingworth.
I'm so comfortable in my sexuality that I can call a good-looking man and not have any stutter over it, Thomas.
Well, there you go. That's fine. Do you think that makes you better than me?
No, I'm saying it's the way I roll.
Good man. He is a very, very handsome man, but he also has some real insight on rugby league. And he goes on to say, Wigan were very good in his opinion. They showed that they are really tough. Ref got some stick, but despite some errors which are bound to happen, what could he do with two great teams trying to gain an advantage? He didn't let NRL dictate, which has happened before, and he stamped his authority as best he could. I don't believe he gave Wigan everything. Both teams were at it, and the penalty count was fair in his opinion.
There you go. Paul O'Brien said, "Deserved the win. Always good to see a British team win the World Club Challenge."
There you go. Sean Bruiser says, "This World Club series is a bit one-sided, isn't it? It should probably be scrapped."
Lee Whitnell says, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well played, Wigan. Well done, Mark. Commiserations, Tom. Love the suit, though.
Thank you very much indeed. And Alf Garner got in touch. He says, Wigan game equals fantastic Super League standard, scrappy and gritty.
I think that underplays it. Wigan did not start like Warrington, did they?
No.
They were, sloppy. We made a few errors that put ourselves under some serious pressure. But what we did is we got ourselves out of that pressure, even from the very first set where O'Loughlin turned the ball over with a loose loose carry, and then Lewis Tierney made an interception on tackle 3 or 4 of the Sharks set. It just set the tone. Everyone across the board for us was willing to defend and defend tough. You think about some of the tackles that Williams put in on people, some of the tackles that Lulai put in on people, and Morgan Escaray, who knew that kid could defend. But he certainly did. I mean, he took down Sam Tagatese on your only clean break of the whole game. Whereas Wigan, on the other hand, felt like they had a lot less ball. It was probably more even in the end, but we took our chances really well. And in similar fashion, when you look at the Joe Burgess try that Morgan Escaray's that Williams' sort of run across the pitch setup, and then Morgan Escaray did a run across the pitch that set up Gildart's try as well. The second and third tries for Wigan, and it was most of it came through good young English players as well. When you think that Williams, Farrell, Farrell not so young now, 26, but that Gildart, Williams, Farrell and Burgess edge is just going to rip teams apart.
Your left side looks really healthy this year if you keep them fit.
And our attack looked far more clinical. I mean, to grab 4 tries against the NRL champions is no mean feat, and to take our chances when they were a bit more limited. But that's not even talking about some of the forward performances. So I thought in the second half, the second spells particularly from Tony Clubb and Ryan Sutton, between sort of the 65th minute and the 75th minute sort of period especially, they were outstanding, and they stopped your guys having any sort of chance to build off that try that was scored. I think across the board, everyone was so tough in the Wigan side, and no one let anyone down at all. And it was great to see, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, no, it was a comprehensive performance, and from 1 to 17, you won all your battles. I think, from my point of view, we were lacking that spark at certain times, that creative element that we've lost. With Ben Barber moving on, there was nothing really kind of chiming in at the line. We looked very narrow. 2 young wingers in the side. I don't feel like particularly Latelli really trusted his winger on the outside of him, so there wasn't a great deal of spreading the play. So the wingers weren't really into it, which narrowed us down, which of course in turn puts the forwards under pressure because it's more of a middle game. But Wigan executed tremendously well and were thoroughly deserved winners. So, I don't necessarily think that it would have made a tremendous amount of difference if Val Holmes had been in the team, or if there'd been a more dynamic presence at fullback. So, no, credit to you. You were deserved winners, and I take nothing away from that.
Yeah, certainly Cronulla weren't firing on all
Beale
cylinders.
perhaps could have done more at fullback, but for me...
He did set up the try that was scored, didn't he? Was it not his kick? Was it his kick? Or was it Townsend?
Sure. I think it was Townsend, wasn't it?
I thought it was Beale.
I'll have to have a look back. But in a very structured side, most NRL sides play that very unique. Without that kind of spark, it does limit you somewhat, especially if you don't really trust your wingers. So
yeah.
Moving forward, hopefully the wingers and centres develop a bit of a relationship, and of course Val Holmes will come back in for the NRL season with some luck. So, no, congratulations to you guys. You were up from minute 1 pretty much from minute 2 really. You were pretty much deserved winners. So, fair play.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well chanced.
Individually, who stood out for his mark?
Liam Farrell, 137 metres. John Bateman completing the best second row in World Rugby League with 41 tackles and 120 metres. Anthony,
you say it and look at me. I'm a massive fan of John.
No, Bateman. I know. Liam Farrell and John Bateman are just absolutely exceptional players. I think Anthony Gelling, 102 metres, 3 successful offloads. Sam Powell, 46 tackles. His distribution and decision making in this game was great as well. He doesn't run the ball a lot, but when he did, he made good meters in this game. He drew people in, and he didn't make any mistakes that I can recall. Joe Burgess, 3 tries and 2 clean breaks.
How much longer is McLaurin out for? Because he's going to find it hard getting back into that team, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's always injuries that'll occur though, aren't there? And
well, not recently to Sam Powell.
No, but on that side of things as well, that you're going to have to not let's not destroy the kid completely. But
I'm not destroying anybody. I'm saying, how does Michael McIlroy get
so you give him the odd break.
Well, yeah,
because he's done so much work in the last 12 months.
Take a breather from now and then. All right, fair enough. Okay, who stood out for my sharp?
It's not a bad dilemma to have,
no,
and hopefully we'll have these dilemmas across the board, because Morgan Escray started the season well. So how does Sam Tompkins get back in at fullback or in the half? How does Dom Manfredi get back in with Lewis Tierney's start to the season? Particularly defensively, Lewis Tierney's been very, very strong.
He has.
So then on your side of things, Wade Graham with 148 metres, Paul Gallen with 142 metres, James Maloney 132 metres, Ricky Latelli 115, that's because he never passed, and Andrew Fafita with 108 metres. So plenty of guys making plenty of metres, but the Wigan defence was able to contain them at key times. I think Maloney basically got them figures because we made him run. He likes to run the ball, but normally he runs it and surprises people. We bottled him up that he had to run almost a lot of the time. We didn't give him the options either side of himself, and without a Barber there who's a sort of can pop up anywhere, whereas Beale plays to the structure more.
Yeah,
you know, what's he got to play with when he's doing his running, Maloney?
Very little. Right, that's the World Club Challenge taken care of. Let's take a look back now at 2 games from round 11 of Super League. So 2 games to discuss from round 11 of Super League. For clarity's sake, these games have been brought forward because the teams involved will be playing in an earlier round of the Challenge Cup, Mark. So we start on Thursday night down at the John Smiths Stadium as Huddersfield Giants took on the Salford Red Devils. Gareth O'Brien scored 22 points to help Salford to their first victory of the season. Giants took the lead when Jerry McGilvery touched down, but the visitors fought back through Junior Sow and a further 6 points from young Gareth O'Brien. Alex Mellor went over twice for the Giants, which I quite enjoyed seeing, but O'Brien scored twice himself to keep the visitors in control. Ukumatai slid over for Huddersfield before Josh Jones powered over to secure the win for Salford.
Yeah, we start with Aidan Stalker. He said, wonderful game, and it's great to have entertainment like that back on Thursday nights. Strangely, more Huddersfield players impressed than Salford ones, but Gareth O'Brien was superb. Love seeing Josh Jones get that try, but the highlight was Brough setting Salford up with an errant pass, the twat.
Yeah, he did. To be fair, he'd just been choked to the ground at that point, so hard to see him getting out of the way. Is that what we're talking about?
I don't think we're talking about that.
Oh, we're not talking about that?
We're not talking about that.
I thought he was being sarcastic.
No, we're not talking about that penalty situation.
Right.
I'm sure we'll get to...
all right, I thought that's what we're referring to. I apologise, we'll get to that in a minute. Alan Walker says that was Super League in 80 minutes. Entertaining and unpredictable. Never a masterclass and sometimes scrappy, often bizarre and at least one dodgy call. You can't look away, but it's a car crash at moments. Plenty of skill on show, lots of determination to make a difference, and yet only 6,000 people saw it at the stadium.
Chris Macy got in touch. He said, I really enjoyed that contest. 2 very evenly matched sides that went for it. Salford certainly deserved the 2 points. They were the more consistent team and kicked better. I thought the Giants' momentum and composure fluctuated way too much for them to win this one, although those 2 tries by Mellor really set up an exciting finish. Great entertainment.
Owen Hughes got in touch. He said, predicted Salford by 10, never in doubt, honest. Josh Jones from the ridiculous, shameful, unsporting behaviour to the sublime, that finish. Great team performance to beat a side that were probably better than us on the night by most measurable stats. And Lucy stayed asleep the entire game. Bonus.
Yeah, Mark W. said a bit lightweight at times, poor passing and worse defence, but the game was lost in our decision making, specifically in last tackle plays. A lot to learn on for next week. Thought Mellor and Cruz did well. That's obviously a Huddersfield fan, Mark is.
There you go. Paul Michael Craig got in touch and said...
He's a Huddersfield fan.
He is a Huddersfield fan. He said it was a close game, but Salford were deserved winners. O'Brien was brilliant for the Devils, and Dobson and Louis were smart enough to kick away from McGilvery. For my Giants, Brough was the best player on the park, even on a losing side. Ikai Hifo and Tai were strong, and Leaming's running game was impressive, though his passing game needs work. Briley was awful, and the first time I heard Rapira's name was for the missed tackle on Josh Jones.
Ikai Hifo and Tai were more than just strong. They were absolutely fantastic. They did not deserve to be on the losing side. They were brilliant in this game. At Sparesy G said, great game between two competitive sides, a much more open game than the first Thursday night game. However, the ruck area in the game is still not being managed, and it's not